You see that? You see the new transition? Isn't that great? Didn't Marguerite do a kick-ass job with that?
Shiny.
Hello, everybody. Hello, newcomers. Hello, old friends. Hello, people from the Isle of Man, people from York, people from America, people from the Magnus Archives, people from Pseudopod,
I'm sorry.
and...
People from America.
Beg pardon, hold on.
It's a good day to do that.
And those folks who have just come in and rated us. Thanks so much for coming in, Shitpost and friends. You are always welcome. Those of you who are new here probably don't know what it is that we normally do. So let me walk you through it really quick. You're going to get 3 sections of a show tonight. You're going to get an introduction. Think of it like the trailers at the movies, the place we will go again soon, which will give you a chance to get comfortable, get hydrated, get a snack, take any meds you might need, look after your pets, lock the doors, throw a ball to the end of the garden so your dad runs off and is distracted by it, whatever you need. Then we will do some fiction. For the last 12 weeks, this fiction has been the magnificent A Wizard's Guide to Defensive Baking by T. Kingfisher, also known as Ursula Vernon. Ursula is our special guest and interviewee next week. The book finished last week, can open, feels everywhere. And this week we are delighted, nay, humbled, I tells you, to have been given permission to read one of her short stories. A short story that appears in, unless I'm very much mistaken, our book.
No, this is a different
I am very much mistaken.
Okay, yeah. So, I will put a link in the chat to Ursula's collection. But there's also an Ursula Vernon story. A brand new one.
A brand new Ursula Vernon story.
Exists in that.
In the Escape Pod anthology. Escape Pod is one of our shows.
Hooray, hooray.
It's our book. It's all good, folks. So, fiction.
Where are
Early opening monologue. And then there will be the shenanigans. Oh my. The shenanigans we have for you this day. So, without further ado, get comfy. I'm going to push a couple of buttons.
Uh-oh.
I know. I'm going to tell you about the fan art we have, which is amazing.
Yay, well done.
Just incredible piece of fan art from Imperio. And then I'm going to kick on with this week's monologue. This, by the way, is from Notes from Small Planets by Nate Crowley. And we'll be talking about that in a couple of pages' time. Space's best bars and restaurants. The Vex Banyup Taverna. Once renowned as the ultimate home for the smallest lowlifes in the galaxy. Smallest lowlifes in the galaxy. Hold on just a second.
What's the matter?
I'm having trouble seeing it.
Is it too dark?
A little bit.
You need a spotlight. Should I, hold a flashlight for you or something?
No, just give me the iPhone. That'll be fine.
No.
I'll just
I
use
didn't have a flashlight. Flashlight's up.
flashlights.
It's over here.
Brilliant.
We're just being funky now. Here you go. Have a flashlight. If that helps.
Fantastic.
Or we could turn up the...
I got it.
We're very disorganized tonight, aren't we?
It's been a long... Not at all. It's been a long week is all. Space's best bars and restaurants. The Vez Banyop Taverna. Once renowned as the ultimate hangout for the rowdiest lowlifes in the galaxy, this legendary dive is now somewhat cleaned up for the tourist crowd, with memorabilia all over the walls and a bar crowded with preening wannabes. Now, don't get me wrong, you could still get threatened by a geezer with an anus for a face while ordering if you feel you really need to, but it'll cost you a pretty penny these days.
I do believe there were content warnings for the opening monologue, were there not?
Fine.
There were.
Fine. Fine. It's all fine. Content
warning.
warning, swears, drug references, and puns.
Yes, exactly.
Hrupenbloops. An extravagant alien...
I'm sorry, could you say that again? What was that?
Hrupenbloops. An extravagant alien-friendly cocktail bar in syndicated space, run by a lady with 3 nostrils and an otherwise entirely ordinary face. Great spot to drink glowing neon-coloured mixed drinks while checking out the extravagant fashions on display, or watching Syndicate science dreadnoughts launching from the nearby drive dock. The Grand Concourse, public space on Outpost Bravo, where alien residents hawk their home cuisine. Some foods are genuinely weird. You simply must try the inevitable bowl of live, glowing tentacles when it's offered, but many are as disappointingly familiar as the aliens themselves. For example, the classic apple with antennae instead of a stalk.
How many references can you catch? 5, 7, 12.
Oh, shut up! Recreation Chamber 13. Austere watering hole where the crew of Outpost Bravo go to drink. At all times of day, you'll find this cramped, windowless hole rammed with rows of spacemen, cheek to jowl but not talking, just pounding back artificial ethanol and sweating. Just about the only concession to fun is the fact that the music, atonal, psychedelic, drone rock, is turned up so high that the patrons can't hear each other howl to themselves in existential despair. Floyd's tip. Spaceman cuisine isn't really much to write home about, having been designed entirely for efficient sustenance over pleasure. The spacemen will take fresh food, then grimly hoy it into the hoppers of a giant machine that grinds, blasts, boils, pulps, leaches and pressing it, before spitting out a row of tiny pellets. Despite seeming to absolutely shatter the law of conservation of energy, it seems a spaceman can obtain an entire day's nutrition from just 3 of these. An orange one, a green one, and the unspeakable dinner wafer. There is a footnote. It's more than just amphetamines.
It's really just... does it say it's more than just amphetamines?
It's more than just amphetamines with jaunty little chin. The spaceman regimen can be interesting to try once, with another footnote, especially if you like the idea of being able to see the accusing spectral forms of long-dead spacemen in your peripheral vision. But that's generally where the fun should end. Currency. With only a few minor exceptions, all planets in space accept the universal currency known as Starbucks, which takes the form of small golden rectangles. These...
we have one! We have one!
We actually do.
I'm sorry, that was very excited of me. Go ahead, finish your story.
These are minted and regulated by the an alien species whose defining characteristic is that they are obsessed with money and come in denominations starting at 14.99 million.
It's a Starbucks!
It's a Starbucks!
This is an actual Starbucks card back in the days in the US where they used to print your name on them.
Ooh.
I never realized that's an actual unit of currency now. Yahoo!
Regrettably, you see, the Starbucks' recent initiative to expand their fleet of science dreadnoughts tenfold has necessitated the printing of quite a lot of new money. And inflation has become a bit of an issue. Daily sample costs. Budget, less than 10 billion Starbucks. 0G bunk in the crew section of Outpost Bravo, Smoker's Berth. 1 day's Spaceman misery rations. 10 minutes in the Outpost Bravo imagination hole. 1 day's flight aboard a Spaceman rocket ship. Mid-range, between 10 to 50 billion Starbucks.
I could drink that much. Challenge accepted.
Homestay with a family of Jaguar sand ranchers, tall glass of premium green space milk, rental of a co-pilot seat in an insurrectionist fighter craft, passage aboard a supposedly crap freighter that ends up outflying military vessels. Nate. Top end, more than 50 billion Starbucks. Officers' quarters on a syndicate science dreadnought, exquisite seafood from a planet with lots of consonants in its name. Ticket to a syndicate captain's gala dinner includes tickets to an unk fight. Single teleportation also technically costs your life, as you are broken into your component atoms and then printed elsewhere, but, don't think about that too hard.
As long as you don't turn into a giant amphibian named what? What was the name of the lizard?
This is Todd, yes.
Oh, Todd, yes.
Dress to fluoresce, space fashion. When choosing your outfit for day-to-day life among the stars, it's better to fall on the side of the outre, among aliens in particular. There's a running joke over which species can wear the most ludicrous costumes and still be taken seriously by humans. Inevitably, this long-running competition has accidentally spawned some genuine fashion miracles, and so alien communities on human stations and vessels tend to be something of an haute couture extravaganza. Here's how to copy their look. In general, silver fabrics are always a good choice, while sequins, headdresses, and extravagantly weird makeup are also highly recommended. Diaphanous fabrics are almost always a good shout, but shiny plastics can be a hit if you've got the confidence to pull them off. Glow sticks. Everywhere. Everywhere you can stick them. If you're not dressing to impress, there are practical considerations. Cold is often an issue, especially on poorly insulated spaceman vessels, so a good knitted jumper is advisable at the very least.
So space drag queen with knitted jumpers.
Yes.
That's the look we're looking for here.
Magnetic boots are also a good call, as, while artificial gravity is de rigueur in most off-planet situations, you don't want to be left drifting like a poached egg if you find yourself on a ship without it. And we'll leave it there. Drifting like a poached egg. So, that was a quote from, a section from Notes from Small Planets by Nate Crowley, who is our unofficial house band. That's just what I was doing.
Cool.
And this is also part of a project which I've been talking about the last couple of weeks on my newsletter. Unfortunately, whoever actually originated this has been lost to the sands of time, or at least Twitter. But there is a project going around called Adopt a Book. And the idea is basically this. It is utterly horrible to have a book or any form of art published in this year. If it's your debut, it's even worse. And Adopt a Book basically asks writers and critics and analysts and friends to pick one or two books each and just talk about them regularly and keep the conversation going past the launch date. And I've done this with 3 books. I'm about to fold a 4th in. Nate's is one. Beneath the Rising by Premi Mohammed is another, which is spectacularly great.
And the sequel is out next year?
Next, I believe, January. January or February.
I thought it is June.
Let's double check on that.
Yes,
and let's
because otherwise I'll have to change what I asked to be a guest.
Yes. And also, Matt Wallace's
oh my God,
epic,
that book!
epic fantasy debut, Savage Legion, which is just so freaking great.
You want this book.
You want all of them.
You want all of them, but this one in particular, if you like non-binary combat characters in epic fantasy and like serious taking down of the man, you want this book.
The man gets his ass kicked so hard.
Shaved sides are canonically how you indicate non-binary gender in that universe.
Yes.
It's awesome.
Fantastic. So yeah, that's where we are with Adopt a Book. That's one of the many reasons why Nate is one of our frequent flyers in the opening monologues. And I believe next we normally talk about how things have been.
Yeah.
And they've been alright. Work is busy at the moment, which is really nice, actually, in a mildly alarming way. I'm starting to make my peace with the fact that I'm probably not circling back around to Nano in any meaningful way.
It happens.
But it's not that I'm not doing it because I don't want to do it. It's that I'm not doing it because there's other stuff to do, which is a good problem to have. I'm currently working on a 3,000-word article about how, in actuality, Stargate SG-1 is a very detailed meta-narrative about humanity's rise to being a galactic civilization, which is also has jokes in it. And I'm also...
Of course it has jokes in it. It's you.
It's me. And there's the newsletter, and I'm revising the novel, and I'm playing around with an audio drama at the moment. So there is, in point of fact, quite a lot on, which is...
All of the things
which
that
is...
are happening.
which is pretty cool. Also, one of my earliest professional gigs circled back around to me this week and went, so you know that email you sent me 4 years ago asking whether there was anything you could do? Yeah. What are your rates?
Yeah.
And I don't want to talk about that one quite yet. And that's not the kind of nonsense writery, oh, I shall give this a code name and release it in 4 years. This isn't a thing which will happen until it's happened. But if it does happen...
You're getting busy again.
People keep paying me money for words.
Yay!
There's also, if the Stargate piece works, there's also a really weird one. I have some Hail Mary pitches, which I normally just throw at people to know full well that they won't go anywhere, but just to make sure that I've done them. And this one was, the company was like, so what have you got for Farscape? And I said, well, I've got this thing about how Crichton uses the fact he is a geek and, you know, the cultural lessons he's learnt from Star Trek and Star Wars and all this stuff to survive in an alien galaxy. Go on. What?
I'm sorry, I always picture this in your head as you were having a stream of consciousness moment and somebody would, yes, tell me more, I wish to pay you, and it catches you by surprise.
Yeah, I'm literally like halfway out of the chair with my coat on going, all right, buy that, what, you want more? And yeah, basically how the reason why Crichton doesn't suffer a complete psychotic break across the course of Farscape, just, I would argue, a partial one, is that he's able to go, cool, those are aliens who have a very barking language and they seem warlike. I'm going to decide that they're Klingons. This little guy, I'm going to reprogram this robot to play the 1812 overture, because I'm fine. I'm fine, see? I'm fine. I'm laughing. How is it? I've been practicing, you know?
Oh, and there's that little thing about RQ announced something in the newsletter this week.
What, the new show?
No, Gaming and Giving?
Gaming and Giving. Folks, I feel like my time is up. I feel like, at long last, the arc of justice is reaching towards the back of my neck. RQ have confirmed that Gaming and Giving is happening this year. It will be, across a 24-hour period end of December?
I don't know what the details are quite yet, but your petard may be hoist.
I feel hoisted. For 18 months, I have been cheerfully doing, I actually think, pretty great impressions of the vast majority of the RQ sundry, and they're all gonna just come for me.
Yeah, it's gonna be a 24-hour marathon, December 12th and 13th.
I'm doomed.
I know that I volunteered you for a couple of things. I don't know if any of them have been accepted yet, but an impressions off seriously needs to happen.
Oh, God. You see, it's weird that I'm like, oh, this is going to suck, and the rest of my brain's like, yeah, Johnny's on the show in 3 weeks.
I didn't bring that book in, it's in the couch.
It'll be fine. It'll be fine. And by 3, I mean 2. So yeah, that's pretty much where things are with me right now.
I'm trying to think if there's anything else. You know, other than that whole election. Oh my god!
And the world's shittest attempted coup. Content warning. So tired.
Let's just not.
Let's just dive right into it.
Let's not get into people who are in hip deeps and rivers in Egypt. And just move on.
Yes.
Just move on.
Yes, indeed. So, what we have for you tonight is the truly, truly magnificent Jackalope Wives by Ursula Vernon, also known as T. Kingfisher. This was originally published in Apex magazine in January 2014, and you can follow along with the story at the link that I just dropped in the stream.
You beat me to it! I had it all copied and pasted in the chat! I'm so proud of you!
I'm sorry, I mean, yeah, good. Okay, jolly good.
Now, there are content warnings for this story.
There are.
Button that says CW.
Content warning CW.
Yes. Read those out loud.
Content warnings for descriptions of burns and injury, sexual themes, and profanity. There is actually another one which I want to add to that. Mm-hmm. Accents. I do not do American accents.
No.
They are very bad. And
I'm just going to get this a little bit closer to you because your voice is a little tired today. Oh, wow. That's a little too close, maybe.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, you know.
Okay.
All right.
There's so many components now. We keep forgetting things.
He says hi. He's doing great. He's on a bulk this week. And this is, of course, a magnificent pumpkin hat designed by the Wendells. Wendy, thank you so much. Our sourdough starter is the most dapper thing in our kitchen because of you. So yeah, accents. Sorry, that probably spikes a little bit. Yeah, I don't do American accents. I'm bad at them. I'm just very bad at them.
You know, it occurs to me if we paid attention, we probably could have split the narration of this, but I didn't pay attention in time. Have fun! Unless you want me to read it.
You complete me.
I love you.
Okay. So this is basically just run with the fact that a Yorkshire lady and sort of Tim Curry are in this environment, okay? Cool? Cool. So yes, the story is Jackalope Wives by Ursula Vernon, also known as T. Kingfisher, originally published in Apex magazine in January 2014. The link to it should be in front of you right now. This is your last call to get some water, get comfortable, get a snack, ensure your meds have been deployed, and just
take care of pets and things like that.
Yes.
And you're going to talk a little bit more about the story afterwards, I imagine.
Yes, including, as Aussie Scribbler has already brought up in the chat, the fact that LeVar freaking Burton read this.
Yes. No pressure.
So no pressure. Jackalope Wives by Ursula Vernon. The moon came up, and the sun went down. The moonbeams went shattering down to the ground, and the jackalope wives took off their skins and danced. They danced like young deer pawing the ground. They danced like devils let out of hell for the evening. They swung their hips and pranced and drank their fill of cactus fruit wine. They were shy creatures, the jackalope wives, though there was nothing shy about the way they danced. You could go your whole life and see no more of them than the flash of a tail vanishing around the backside of a boulder. If you were lucky, you might catch a whole line of them outlined against the sky on the top of a bluff, the shadow of horns rising off their brows. And on the half-moon, when new and full were balanced across the saguaro's thorns, they would come down to the desert, and they would dance. The young men used to get together and whisper, saying they were going to catch them a jackalope wife. They'd lay belly down at the edge of the bluff and look down on the fire and the dancing shapes, and then they would go away aching for all the good it did them. For the jackalope wives were shy of humans. Their lovers were jackrabbits and antelope bucks, not human men. You couldn't even get too close, or they'd take fright and run away. One minute you'd see them kicking their heels up and hear them laugh. Then the music would freeze and they'd all look at you with their eyes wide and their ears upswept, and the next second they would snatch up their skins and there'd be nothing left but a dozen skinny she-rabbits running off in all directions and a campfire that wouldn't burn out till morning. It was uncanny, sure, but they never did anybody any harm. Grandma Harkin, who lived down past the well, said the jackalopes were the daughters of the rain, and driving them off would bring the drought. People said they didn't believe a word of it, but when you live in a desert, you don't take chances. When the wild music came through town, a couple of notes skittering on the sand, then people knew the jackalope wives were out. The town got into a habit. It would have a dance that night to keep the boys firmly fixed on human girls and to drown out the notes of the wild music. Now, it happened there was a young man in town who had a touch of magic on him. It had come down to him on his mother's side, as happens now and again, and it was worse than useless. Because, you see, a little magic is worse than none. It draws the wrong sort of attention. It gave this young man feverish eyes. It made him sullen. His grandmother used to tell him that it was a miracle he hadn't been drowned as a child, and for her he'd laugh, but not for anyone else. He was tall. He was slim. He had dark hair, and young women found him fascinating. This sort of thing happens often enough, even with boys as mortal as dirt. There's always one who learned how to brood early and often, and always girls who think they can heal him. Eventually, the girls learn better. Either the hurts are petty little things and they get tired of whining, or the hurt's so deep and wide that they drown. The smart ones, they heave themselves back to shore. And the slower ones, well, they wake up married with a husband who lies around and suffers in their direction. It's a part of a dance as old as the jackalopes themselves. But in this town, at this time, the girls hadn't learnt, and the boy hadn't yet worn out his interest, so, at the dances, he leaned on the wall with his hands in his pockets and his eyes glittering. Other young men eyed him with dislike. He would slip away early before the dance was ended and never marked the eyes that followed him and wished that he would stay. He himself had one thought and one thought only: to catch a jackalope wife. They were beautiful. These beautiful creatures, with their long brown legs and their bodies splashed orange by the firelight, and they had faces like no mortal woman, and they moved like quicksilver, and they played music that got down into your bones and thrummed like a sickness. And there was one, he'd seen her, She danced further out from the others, and her horns were short and sharp like sickles. She was the last one to put on her rabbit skin when the sun came up. Long after the music had stopped, she danced to the rhythm of her own long feet on the sand. And now you are going to ask me about the musicians that played for the Jackalope Wives. Well, if you can find a place where they've been dancing, you might see something like sidewinder tracks in the dust. And more than that, I cannot tell you. The desert chews its secrets. Chews them right down to the bone. So, the young man, with the touch of magic, watched the Jackalope wife dancing, and you know as well as I do what young men dream about. We will be charitable. She danced a little apart from her fellows, as he walked a little apart from his. Perhaps he thought she might understand him. Perhaps he found her as interesting as the girls found him. Perhaps we shouldn't always get what we think we want. And the Jackalope wife danced, out past the circle of the music and the firelight, in the light of the fierce desert stars. Grandma Harkin had settled in for the evening with a shawl on her shoulders and a cat on her lap when someone started hammering on the door. "Grandma! Grandma, come quick! Open the... Oh, God! Grandma, you have to help me!" She knew that voice just fine. It was her own grandson, her daughter Eva's boy. Pretty and useless and charming when he set out to be. She dumped the cat off her lap and stumped to the door. What trouble had the young fool gotten himself into? "Sweet St. Anthony," she muttered, "let him not have gotten some fool girl in a family way. That's just what we need." She flung the door open, and there was Eva's son, and there was a girl, and for a moment her worst fears were absolutely realized. And then she saw what was huddled in the circle of her grandson's arms, and her worst fears were stomped flat and replaced by far greater ones. "Oh, Mary," she said. "Oh, Jesus, Mary and Joseph. Oh, blessed St. Anthony, you've caught a Jackalope wife." Her first impulse was to slam the door and lock the sight away. Her grandson caught the edge of the door and hauled it open, his knuckles raw and blistered. "Let me in," he said. He'd been crying. There was dust on his face, stuck to the tracks of tears. Let me in. Oh, God, Granny, you have to help me. It's all gone wrong." Grandma took 2 steps back while he half dragged the Jackalope into the house. He dropped her down in front of the hearth and grabbed his grandmother's hands. "Grandma!" She ignored him and dropped to her knees. The thing across her hearth was barely human. "What have you done?" she said. "What did you do to her?" "Nothing," he said, recoiling. "Don't look at me and tell me nothing. What in the name of our Lord did you do to that girl?" He stared down at his blistered hands. "Her skin," he mumbled, "the rabbit skin. You know." "Do indeed," she said grimly. "Oh, yes, I do." "What did you do, you damned young fool?" "Caught up her skin and hid it from her to keep her changing." The Jackalope wife stirred on the hearth and made a sound between a whimper and a sob. "She was waiting for me," he said. "She knew I was there. I watched her and she knew I was out there and she let me get up really close. I thought we could talk." Grandma Harkin clenched one hand into a fist and rested her forehead on it. "I grabbed the skin. It was right there. She was watching. I thought she wanted me to have it." She turned and looked at him. He sank down in her chair, all his grace gone. "You have to burn it," mumbled her grandson. He slid down a little further in her chair. "You're supposed to burn it. Everybody knows, to keep them changing." "Yes," said Grandma Harkin, curling her lip. "Yes, that's the way of it. Right enough." She took the Jackalope wife's shoulders and turned her towards the lamplight. She was a horror. Her hands were human enough, But she had a jackrabbit's feet and a jackrabbit's eyes, and they were set too wide apart in a human face with a cleft lip and long rabbit ears. Her horns were short, sharp spikes on her brow. The jackalope wife let out another sob and tried to curl back into a ball. There were burnt patches on her arms and legs, a long red wheal down her face. The fur across her breasts and belly was singed. She stank of urine and burning hair. What did you do? I threw it in the fire, he said. You're supposed to. But she screamed. She wasn't supposed to scream. Nobody said they screamed, and I thought she was dying, and I didn't want to hurt her. I pulled it back out. He looked up at her with his feverish eyes, that useless, beautiful boy, and said, I didn't want to hurt her. I thought I was supposed to. I gave her the skin back. She put it on, but then she fell down. I wasn't supposed to work like that. Grandma Harkins sat back. She exhaled very, very slowly. She was calm. She was going to be calm, because otherwise she was going to pick up the fire poker and club her own flesh and blood over the head with it. And even that might not knock some sense into him. Oh, Eva, my dear child, my dear, what a useless son you have raised. Who would have thought he had so much ambition in him? To catch a jackalope wife. You goddamn stupid fool, she said, every word slamming like a shutter in the wind. Oh, you goddamn stupid fool. If you're going to catch a jackalope wife, you burn the hide down to ashes, and you never mind how she screams. But it sounded like it was hurting her, he shot back. You weren't there. She screamed like a dying rabbit. Of course it hurts her, yelled Grandma. You think you can have your skin and your freedom burned away in front of you and not scream? Sweet Mother Mary, boy, think about what you're doing. Be cruel or be kind. Don't be both, because now you've made a mess you can't clean up in a hurry. She stood up, breathing hard, and looked down at the wreck on her hearth. She could see it now, as clear as if she'd been standing there. The fool boy had been so shocked he'd yanked the burning skin back out, and the jackalope wife had one thought only and pulled on the burning hide, and oh... Oh, yes, she could see it clear. Half gone, at least, if she was any judge. There couldn't have been more than a few scraps of fur left unburned. He'd waited through at least one scream, or... No, that was unkind. More likely, he'd dithered and looked for a stick and didn't want to grab for it with his bare hands, though by the look of his hands he had done just that in the end. And the others were long gone by then and couldn't stop her. There ought to have been at least one, at least smart enough to know that you didn't put on a half-burnt rabbit skin. Why does she look like that? Whispered her grandson, huddled into his chair. Because she's trapped betwixt and between. You did that. With your pity. Should have let it burn, or better yet, left her alone and never gone out in the desert at all. She was beautiful, he said, as if it were a reason. As if it mattered. As if it had ever mattered. Get out, said Grandma wearily. Tell your mother to make up a poultice for your hands. You did right at the end bringing her here, even if you made a mess of the rest from first to last. He scrambled to his feet and ran for the door. On the threshold, he paused and looked back. You can fix her, right? Grandma let out a high bark, like a bitch fox. Barely a laugh at all. No one can fix this, boy. This is broken past mending. All I can do is pick up the pieces. He ran. The door slammed shut and left her alone with the wreckage of the jackalope wife. She treated the burns, and they healed. But there was nothing to be done for the shape of the jackalope's face, or the 2 wide eyes, or the horns shaped like a sickle moon. At first, Grandma worried the townspeople would see her, and the Lord knew what would happen then. But the jackalope wife was the colour of dust, and she had a wild animal stillness, and when somebody called, she lay flat in the garden down among the beans, and nobody saw her at all. The only person she didn't hide from was Eva, Grandma's daughter. There was no chance that she mistook them for each other. Eva was round and plump and comfortable, the way Grandma's second husband, Eva's father, had been round and plump and comfortable. Maybe we smell alike, thought Grandma. Would make sense, I suppose. Eva's son didn't come round at all. He thinks you're mad at him, said Eva mildly. He thinks correctly, said Grandma. She and Eva sat on the porch together, shelling beans, while the jackalope wife limped around the garden. The hairless places weren't so obvious now, and the faint stripes across her legs might have been dust if you didn't look directly at her. She might almost have been human. She's got good with the crutch, said Eva. Suppose she can't walk? Not well, said Grandma. Her feet weren't made to stand up like that. She can do it, but it's a terrible strain. And talk? No, said Grandma shortly. The jackalope wife had tried, once, and the noises that she had made were so terrible that it had reduced them both to weeping. She hadn't tried again. She understands well enough, I suppose. The jackalope wife sat down, slowly, in the shadow of the scarlet runner beans. A hummingbird zipped inches from her head, dabbing its bill into the flowers, and the jackalope's face turned, unsmiling, to follow it. He's not a bad boy, you know, said Eva, not looking at her mother. He didn't mean to do her harm. Grandma let out an explosive snort. Jesus, Mary and Joseph, it doesn't matter what he meant to do. Should have left well enough alone, and if he couldn't do that, he should have finished what he started. She scowled down at the beans. They were striped red and white, and the pods came apart easily in her gnarled hands. Better all the way human than this. Better he'd bashed her head in with a rock than this. Better for her or for you? Asked Eva, who was only a fool about her son and knew her mother well. Grandma snorted again. The hummingbird passed away. The hummingbird buzzed away. The jackalope wife lay still in the shadows with only her thin ribs going up and down. You could have finished it too, said Eva softly. I've seen you kill chickens. She'd probably lay her head on the chopping block if you asked. She probably would, said Grandma. She looked away from Eva's weak, wise eyes. But I'm a damn fool as well. Her daughter smiled. Maybe it runs in families. Grandma Harkin got up before dawn the next morning and went rummaging around the house. Well, she said. She pulled a dead mouse out of a mousetrap, took a half-dozen cigarettes down from behind the clock. She filled 3 water bottles and strapped them around her waist. Well, I suppose we've done as much as humans can do. Now it's up to somebody else. She went out into the garden and found the jackalope wife asleep under the stairs. Come on, she said. Wake up. The air was cool and grey. The jackalope wife looked at her with doe-dark eyes and didn't move, and if she were a human, Grandma Harkin would have itched to slap her. Pay attention, get mad, do something! But she wasn't human, and rabbits freeze when they're scared past running. So Grandma gritted her teeth and reached down her hand and pulled the jackalope wife up into the pre-dawn dark. They moved slow, the 2 of them. Grandma was old and carrying water for 2, and the girl was on a crutch. The sun came up, and the cicadas burnt the air with their wings. A coyote watched them from up on the hillside. The jackalope wife looked up at him and recoiled, and Grandma laid a hand on her arm. Don't worry, she said. I haven't got the time for coyotes. They'd maybe fix you up, but we'd both be stuck in a tail past telling, and I'm too old for that. Come on. They went a little further on, past a wash and a watering hole. There were Palo Verde trees spreading thin green shade over the water. A javelina looked up at them from the edge and stamped her hooved feet. Her children scraped their tusks together and grunted. Grandma slid and slithered down the slope to the far side of the water and refilled the water bottles. "Not them either," she said to the jackalope wife. "They'll talk the legs off a wooden sheep. We'd both be dead of old age before they'd figured out what time to start." The javelina dropped their heads and ignored them as they left the wash behind. The sun was overhead and the sky turned turquoise, a colour so hard you could bash your knuckles on it. A raven croaked overhead and another one snickered somewhere off to the east. The jackalope wife paused, leaning on her crutch, and looked up at the wings with longing. "Oh, no, said Grandma. "I've got no patience for riddle games, and in the end they always eat someone's eyes. Relax, child. We're nearly there." The last stretch was cruelly hard, up the side of a bluff. The sand was soft underfoot and miserably hard for a girl walking with a crutch. Grandma had to half carry the jackalope wife at the end. She weighed no more than a child, but children are heavy, and it took them both a long time. At the top was a high fractured stone that cast a finger of shadow like the wedge of a sundial. Sand and sky, shadow and stone. Grandma Harkin nodded, content. "It'll do," she said. "It'll do." She laid the jackalope wife down in the shadow and laid her tools out on the stone. Cigarettes and dead mouse and a scrap of burnt fur from the jackalope's breast. "It'll do." Then she sat down in the shadow herself and arranged her skirts. She waited. The sun went overhead, and the level in the water bottle went down. The sun started to sink, and the wind hissed, and the jackalope wife was asleep or dead. And the ravens croaked a conversation to each other from the branches of a Palo Verde tree, and whatever one said made the other one laugh. "Well," said a voice behind Grandma's right ear, "what do we have here? Jesus, Mary, and Joseph!" "Don't see them out here often," he said. "Not the right sort of place." He considered. "You're St. Anthony. Now, him, I think I've seen. He understood about deserts." Grandma's lips twisted. "Father of rabbits," she said sourly. "Wasn't trying to call you up." "Oh, I know," the father of rabbits grinned. "But you know I've always had a soft spot for you, Maggie Harkin." He sat down beside her on his heels. He looked like an old Mexican man, wearing a button-down shirt without any buttons. His hair was silver grey, like a rabbit's fur. Grandma wasn't fooled for a minute. "Get lonely down there in your town, Maggie?" he asked. "You come out here for a little wild company?" Grandma Harkin leaned over to the jackalope wife and smoothed one long ear back from her face. She looked up at them both with wide, uncomprehending eyes. "Shit," said the father of rabbits. "I've never seen that before." He lit a cigarette and blew the smoke into the air. "What did you do to her, Maggie?" "Didn't do a damn thing except not let her die when I should have." "There's those would say that was more than enough." He exhaled another lungful of smoke. "She put on an half-burnt skin. I don't suppose you can fix her up." It cost Grandma a lot of pride to say that, and the father of rabbits tipped his chin in acknowledgement. Oh, no. If it was loose, I could fix it up, maybe, but I couldn't get it off her now with a knife." He took another drag on the cigarette. "Now I see why you wanted one of the patterned people." Grandma nodded stiffly. The father of rabbits shook his head. "You might want a life, you know. Piddly little dead mouse over there might not be enough. You can have mine." "Oh, Maggie. Maggie. You'd have made a fine rabbit once. Too many stones in your belly now. He shook his head regretfully. Besides, it's not your life he's owed. It's my life he'd be getting. My kid did it, it's up to me to put it right. It occurred to her that she should have left Eva a note, telling her to send the fool boy back east, away from the desert. Well, too late now. Either she'd raised a fool for a daughter or not, and likely she wouldn't be around to tell. Suppose we'll find out, said the father of rabbits, and nodded. A man came around the edge of the standing stone. He moved quick, then slow, and his eyes did not blink. He was naked, and his skin was covered in painted diamonds. Grandma Harkin bowed to him because the pattern people can't hear speech. He looked at her, and he looked at the father of rabbits, and he looked at the jackalope wife. He looked down at the stone in front of him. The cigarettes he ignored. The mouse he scooped up in 2 fingers and dropped into his mouth. Then he crouched there for a long time. He was so still that it made Grandma's eyes water, and she had to look away. Suppose he does it, said the father of rabbits. Suppose he sheds that skin right off her. Then what? You've got a human left over, not a jackalope wife. Grandma stared down at her bony hands. It's not so bad being a human. You might do. It's got to be better than that. She jerked her chin in the direction of the jackalope wife. Still meddling, Maggie, said the father of rabbits. And what do you call what you're doing? He grinned. The pattern man stood up and nodded to the jackalope wife. She looked at Grandma, who met her 2 wide eyes. He'll kill you, the old woman said, or cure you, or maybe both. You don't have to do it. This is the bit where you get a choice. But when it's over, you'll be all the way something. Even if it's just all the way dead. The jackalope wife nodded. She left the crutch lying on the stones and stood up. Rabbit legs weren't meant for it, but she walked 3 steps, and the pattern man opened his arms and caught her. He bit her on the forearm, where the thick veins run, and sank his teeth in up to the gums. Grandma cursed. Easy now, said the father of rabbits, putting a hand on her shoulder. He's one of the patterned people, and they only know the one way. The jackalope wife's eyes rolled back in her head, and she sagged down onto the stone. He set her down gently and picked up one of the cigarettes. Grandma Harkin stepped forward. She rolled both her sleeves up to the elbow and offered him her wrists. The pattern man stared at her, unblinking. The ravens laughed to themselves at the bottom of the wash. Then he dipped his head and bowed to Grandma Harkin, and a rattlesnake as long as a man slithered away into the evening. She let out a breath she did not know she'd been holding. He didn't ask for a life. The father of rabbits grinned. Oh, you know. Maybe he wasn't hungry. Maybe it was enough. You made the offer. Maybe I'm too old and stringy, she said. Could be that, too. The jackalope wife was breathing. Her pulse went fast, then slow. Grandma sat down beside her and held her wrist between her own calloused palms. How long are you going to wait? Asked the father of rabbits. Long as it takes, she snapped back. The sun went down while they were waiting. The coyotes sang up the moon. It was half full, half new, halfway between one thing and the other. She doesn't have to stay human, you know, said the father of rabbits. He picked up the cigarettes that the pattern man had left behind and offered one to Grandma. She doesn't have a jackalope skin anymore. He grinned. She could just see his teeth flash white in the dark. Give her yours. I burnt it, said Grandma Harkin, sitting up ramrod straight. "I found where he hid it after he died, and I burnt it myself, because I had a new husband and a little bitty baby girl, and all I could think about was leaving them both behind and going dancing." The father of rabbits exhaled slowly in the dark. "It was easier that way," she said. "You get over what you can't have faster than you get over what you could, and we shouldn't always get what we think we want." And then they sat in silence at the top of the bluff. Between Grandma's hands, the pulse beat steady and strong. "I never did like your first husband much," said the father of rabbits. "Well," she said. She lit her cigarette off his. "He taught me how to swear. Second one was better." The jackalope wife stirred and stretched. Something flaked off her in long strands like burnt scraps of paper, like a snake's skin shedding away. The wind tugged at them and set them spinning off the side of the bluff, and from down in the desert they heard the first notes of a sudden, wild music. "It happens I might have a spare skin," said the father of rabbits. He reached into his pack and pulled out a long grey roll of rabbit skin. The jackalope wife's eyes went wide and her body shook with longing, but it was human longing, and a human body shaking. "Where'd you get that?" asked Grandma Harkin, suspicious. "Oh, well, you know," he waved a hand. "Pulled it out of a fire once. Must have been 40 years ago now." "Took some doing to fix it up again, but some people owed me favours. Suppose she might as well have it. Unless you wanted." He held it out to Grandma Harkin. She took it in her hands and stroked it. It was as soft as it had been 50 years ago. The small sickle horns were hard weights in her hands. "You were a hell of a dancer," said the father of rabbits. "I still am," said Grandma Harkin, and she flung the jackalope skin over the shoulders of the human jackalope wife. It went on like it had been made for her, like it was her own. There was a jagged scar down one foreleg where the rattlesnake had bit her. She leapt up, darted away, circled back once, and bumped Grandma's hand with her nose, and then she was bounding down the path from the top of the bluff. The father of rabbits let out a long, long sigh. "You still are," he agreed. "It's different when you get a choice," said Grandma Harkin. They shared another cigarette under the standing stone. Down in the desert, the music played and the jackalope wives danced, and one scarred jackalope went leaping into the circle of firelight and danced like a demon, while the moon laid down across the saguaro's thorns. I believe the phrase we're all looking for is bloody hell.
It's such a good story.
She does this every time. She does this. She makes these. She constructs these stories where every word is perfect and every word has impact. And she does this thing where she, you figure out the twist, and then she goes, "Oh no, you figured out that twist."
Yeah, exactly. This is not the only story with this character either. Maybe we should pick that up next week with Ursula and have her tell us a little bit more about Granny Harkin. Yeah, exactly.
And I make no apologies for Tim Curry, father of rabbits.
Oh, yeah, Elias, Rabbit Elias is what everybody in the chat's called.
Hello.
But yeah, it's such a good story. I'll hit the story button and just put the details in the chat one more time. But yeah. Oh yeah, there's more. There's at least one other short story. Actually, I believe The Tomato Thief is a novelette.
Yep.
Because it's like 13,000 words.
It's not Grandma Harkin and Pokersin, is it? But
no,
it has a very strong Grandma Harkin energy to it.
That's a very different story. But I think we should ask her, because I think she's always said she wanted to write more in this universe. Mm-hmm. And I know I tried to commission her to write a story about a specific side character in this universe. But Talk a little bit about it now.
The two things I really love about that are the incredible sense of place and the incredible sense of distance. I know I use this as a cheap punchline an awful lot, but I grew up somewhere 30 kilometers wide. I grew up somewhere that you can, and I have, walked the length of in a day. And that gives me, even now, even a couple of decades after I left, a very skewed perspective. A few years ago, we went to a friend's wedding in Vegas, and we worked out the best possible way to get from Vegas to LA, where we were staying with another couple of friends, was driving through the desert. And Marguerite kind of sat me down and went, "Are you going to be all right? Because it's the desert, and it's going to be a 4-hour trip, and we'll have air conditioning." And I was like, "The desert? Yeah. 4 hours? Yeah. Yes." And I was plastered to the window the whole time. You know, I was fascinated by the void, by this incredible sense of space. And it's something I feel every time I go to America. And I feel it in very different ways. John Oliver has a line about how New York is 6 million people who got off the boat and went, "Content warning swears, fuck it, this'll do." And they're all really grumpy about that fact. And you get that in New York. It feels very European. Spending time in Texas, which I have an admittedly relatively small amount, and spending quite a lot of time in California, there is this sense of sprawl.
Ozzy says, "Alistair, you're from some smaller island than the main Great Britain. You want to talk about it?"
Oh my God, there are people who don't know. That's brilliant. I know about I always worry I talk about this far too much. Yeah, I'm from the Isle of Man. The best possible way to find us, if you live in the UK, is we are what the weather forecaster is always standing in front of. We are a 30-kilometre long strip of land halfway between England and Ireland, notable for several things. We were a Viking retirement home. Seriously, Vikings would just come here and go, "No, it's fine. We live here now." Done pillaging. We were Robert the Bruce's hobby during his time as King of Scotland. He tried invading several times. And we are notable in modern parlance for two things. Technically, the Isle of Man is its own country. It is a Commonwealth country, a crown principality, which means it has its own government and it has its own money. And it also means that it is very, very slow to reform. I will give you an example. There's a place in the island called Tynwald Hill. Tynwald Hill is a Viking parliament. And the Vikings had this lovely practical approach to this kind of thing of, we need somewhere which represents everywhere. Great. Let's get some soil from each one of the provinces and build a hill with steps in it. And whoever represents the province gets to stand on the step.
And you have to tell people about the flag as well.
I will. And Tynwald Day is still celebrated. This is literally the Viking day where everyone went to the hill and went, "So, laws? Yeah." Sometimes this is really good. Sometimes this is really bad. The Isle of Man was staggeringly homophobic for a very long time. And now it's just quite homophobic. Which is a large, softly spoken, literate man with glasses was just made an awful lot of my teenage years delightful, let me tell you. This is our flag. This is the Triskelion. And everything I'm about to say will sound like I have made basically Mad Libs. I haven't. This is the favoured weapon of Manannan, the Manx magician. Manannan has a specialist. Thank you. As a specialization. Much like Mona in A Wizard's Guide to Defensive Baking, Manannan is really good with fog. And fog, really. So, the justification on the island is that Manannan has hidden the island for many, many years, which is why the Romans never came here. And it's also, anytime people invaded, he would roll these three-legged wheels of fire down the island's sole mountain to destroy their ships. This is also why the Manx motto, which I'm going to slaughter the Latin, I think is something like quodent quis custodes. Either that or that's who watches the Watchmen. Is wherever I fall, I will stand.
Exactly. The original caltrop.
Which, as someone who watched the adventures of Buckaroo Banzai at an early age, I mean, the point where I realized that my national anthem, my national motto was literally "Wherever you go, there you are." That felt like a sign, you know.
Has some very, very badass looking sheep. That's right. People were
You know,
like,
we
how
have
do you
metal as fuck sheep. It's brilliant.
People were like, how do you have a flag? I'm like, all Manx people have flags, or tattoos, or both.
I have a friend who has a dragon holding holding the Manx flag, punching in and out of the flesh on his right arm as a tattoo.
Yes, they are the Goth sheep with 4 horns. Those are endemic to the Isle of Man. They're on their coins.
Yes.
I can't remember the exact. That and the cats, Manx cats.
My entire childhood we had one or more Manx cats, and the ridiculous myth there is that they were the last things into the ark, so Noah slammed the door and cut their tails off. And in reality, of course, they've been bred that way. So you have cats with no tail, and you have cats with stumps. And when I was growing up, I had a big ginger Tom called Emerus, who had like 2 joints of a tail. And you could tell, as far as he was concerned, he had this magnificent, lashing, gorgeous tail. And he just threw it around all the time. It was great.
Tell folks what a jackalope is.
Jackalopes.
There's a jackalope button.
There's a jackalope button. There's a jackalope button. These are jackalopes. Jackalopes are...
It's a portmanteau.
yeah.
It's a portmanteau.
It's a they are delightful portmanteau pardon me, animals. Mythical animal of North American folklore, described as fearsome and justifiably so. Basically, a jackrabbit with antelope horns. And these, like an awful lot of Fortean creatures, these were initially presented as real.
Have you seen Brotherhood of the Wolf?
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
The furry fish. That is something like a jackalope. They used to be. There's a German variety of them called Volpeltingers.
Isn't that just a great word?
It's literally a cottage industry of people making these taxidermy monstrosities and selling them to tourists.
And I mean, you get so much stuff this way. You get the countless mermaids. You get at least 2 Bigfoot corpses.
Yeah.
You know?
They've kind of integrated themselves into frontier western and specifically southwestern kind of parlance. If you've ever played Deadlands, the last thing in the world you ever want to see is a jackalope.
Because aren't they the omen of imminent, massive death?
They're botch bunnies. They make it so that if you botch a roll, the worst possible thing happens. I had a character in our party who botched their roll on watch one night and woke up with their throat ripped out from the rabbit.
Don't mess with jackalopes, man.
Yeah, exactly. They have this fascinating history.
We've got a couple of really good links about them, which I'll throw in the show notes.
Okay, that sounds good. Yeah, exactly. Fiji mermaids, Volpeltingers, all sorts of that kind of thing.
Chupacabra.
Yeah, they're cryptids, essentially. And everybody's like, what? Oh boy, here we go again. You want to talk a little bit about the story and its own history?
I don't really know the story's history.
Yeah, I do. Okay, so Ursula wrote this story and it was published in January of 2014.
Oh, that history.
It won the Nebula. It won a couple of other short fiction prizes. And of course, 2014, I hear Zolia rebelling already, is known as the Sad Puppy Year. Because it's the year that the Hugo Awards were hijacked by a very right-wing leading group of people. And it should have been a Hugo winner. But it...
Come on screen, hon.
No, it's fine. It's good. So, yeah, it is a very, very well-renowned and amazing story. And I'm sure everybody can tell why. And there's been lots written about it, too.
Yeah, and justifiably so. I mean, it's an incredible piece.
Yeah.
And it has such a sense of place. I'm honestly amazed no one's tried a movie version of it.
There's not quite, I don't know enough material for it, but it would certainly make like a good comic or something.
I mean, it has been LeVar Burton, and that's
Yeah.
not nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
And it was on one of our podcasts as well. Cool.
Oh yeah,
Animated short,
and
yeah,
such a good idea. But yeah, I love stuff like this, and I mean, this is in your bones. Stories like these, Anya.
I really, really like this story because it is about so many things, and yet it's not about other things, and it is harsh in that way that deserts are harsh. And like, I mean, the chat was picking up on it. There are some lines in there that are just echo with how hard and stark and real they are. It's really good.
This is a weird one, and it's much fond as I am of the movie. I think this is a significantly better story. The tone of it reminded me of, for want of a better word, one of my comfort jokes. The opening song in Rango, done by the remarkably sinister Mariachi Owls, is about the importance of evolution and how animals in the desert really need to adapt to their environment. And with apologies to Antonio Banderas, which is what I'm aiming for here, the final line of the song is just, "Here in the Mojave Desert, animals have evolved over thousands of years to survive." And the camera just smash cuts to the owl this close to the screen. "The lizard? He is going to die." And it just makes me laugh every single time. It's worth it for that, and it's worth it for Timothy Oliphant as the Spirit of the West.
Timothy Oliphant?
There is a character 3/4 of the way through that is very clearly the man with no name. They could not get Clint Eastwood because I presume he was yelling at children to get off his lawn.
Or being an asshole in Carmel. He lives in
Yeah?
He has a big house in Carmel that he did a bunch of construction that wasn't authorized, and everybody was mad at him about.
So they got Timothy Oliphant in, because when you can't get Clint Eastwood, you get Tim Oliphant. A man who once got a job announcing the weather on David Lynch's radio show because he was walking along outside at the time.
Really?
Held it for 6 years.
How does that feel?
Familiar. Do you know what I think it might be time for?
I think it might be time to do a little bit of brevity.
Alex approved.
Oh, I love the owls, Triffid. Those are adorable. Yeah, Timothy Oliphant is in The Mandalorian now.
Yes, he is.
Go ahead.
What? Okay. You ever have one of those moments of Twitter zen? We haven't been watching the current series, The Mandalorian. We bank it, and I read an article yesterday about something which might be mildly spoilery, and
I'm just showing people the sign. It just says Jackalope Wives.
And there was a still in it of an X-Wing pilot holding a gun on someone. And I really love Kim's Convenience. I think it's a really funny, really sweet show. It's about a Korean immigrant family running a convenience store in, I believe, Toronto.
I think so too.
And I looked at this still and I was like, that's Appa. That's the dad from Kim's Convenience. And I retweeted it and said, that's Appa, right? And everyone was like, yes. And then the actor followed me. So a really stern and charmingly inept Korean patriarch has now become an X-Wing pilot. And apparently he had the time of his life. He was on set for like 3 days and he said, I felt like Cinderella. It was brilliant.
Oh. Radio. You ready for shenanigans?
Let's shenanify.
So we have a couple of little short bits today. And then Alistair said he found something else as well. But I don't know what that one is.
Yes. In fact, I will drop the links across to you for these. But here we go with the first one. This is from Between Divorces.
That's what I've called it.
Yes. Elias, shopping for snacks for his sailor husband. Martin, on sale, 100% lonely, comes with organic parental issues and all emotional baggage. Elias calls his husband. Big boy man, You won't believe what I found today at the supermarket. I'll get you one, yeah? And then this is from Scoops McGee, which is a lovely name. So, the popular fanon has become that Elias doesn't give a shit about Peter and just uses him for his money. And I get the humour in that. But also, the idea of these two genuinely horrendous people finding legitimate companionship and love in one another, yet being so devoted to their own personal gods and their own ambitions that they will give it up to reach their goals, is, for me, a lot more emotionally impactful. Hey, Peter, I love you, and I've missed you, and now I'm going to send you off to probably be killed by my archivist. Leave the door open behind you. Hello, Elias. You are the light of my life, and I am so glad to see you again. I am soaking up as much of your love and energy as possible, because I am going to isolate myself on a ship with no way to contact you for the next 18 months in order to please my God, who feeds on loneliness. Aww. People. And yet, this I found two things. I'll put these in the notes. One is this wonderful one-panel comic, which is you feel like you interrupted something important and that perhaps you should leave immediately. And it's obviously Elias's office, and he's sitting behind the desk with his tie partially undone. Peter's tie is partially undone, wearing his captain's hat. There is a spilled coffee mug on the table, and Elias, slightly out of breath, is saying, "Can I help you?" And Peter is looking directly at you going, "Ahoy there."
Oh my. Wow.
And there's also what looks like a really interesting first page of a comic, which I shall read to you. And this is... I'll describe what's in there. There's a shot of what's obviously the tundra.
Can you just send me the URLs,
Billy?
No, you can't. Don't worry.
Not easily. Not right.
Okay, that's fine.
In fact, no, I should be able to. You can access bedtime stories, right?
Yeah. Put them somewhere. We're doing this live.
We're doing it live. Doing it live.
Where is your cursor? Curse you. Where are you? Oh, I see you. Okay.
Okay, so I'm just
Put
going
both
to...
of them in there, and I'll try and figure that out. Right after the love and devotion. He seems like this all the time when we're working. Okay, here's one.
This one.
Here's one. Toad's Profesh.
Toad's Profesh.
And where's the other one?
That's what I'm working on now.
Exactly. Hold music.
Did it? The whole music. Did it? Did it?
Whole music.
Oh no, it's gone. Hold on.
No.
It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. I can find it.
Is this the comic that says I'm writing in...
Yes.
Okay. I can do this. Hold on. I think I can get a direct link. Yes, come here. Da-da-da-da-da. Da-da-da-da. Here we go.
You dropping it in the thing? I'll just open it from the chat. That's like Inception.
You can put it in the chat. Thanks,
The-
Hal.
This is the exact one.
Okay.
This is from a Tumblr entitled "Where the Hell is the Karma?"
Okay.
Dear Peter, I'm writing you in hopes of your good health and in confidence of your unquestioned loyalty to the family. While I encourage your long months at sea in isolation, I'm sure you're aware it's useless to our patron until you go through the proper rites. I'm demanding your presence at the Lucas family home. James recently passed and a new figurehead of the Magnus Institute has been appointed. You will meet him. I implore you to consider finally taking your responsibilities as my successor seriously. Sincerely yours, Nathaniel Lucas. And this is the first part of what promises to be a comic, basically detailing the first meeting between Peter and Elias. And there's a lovely pair of panels in there. James recently passed and a new figurehead of the Magnus Institute has been appointed. There's just this suited figure smiling with eyes behind him. And the one next to it is Peter batting away, eyes in midair, going, "Go away."
The art on that's really nice. It looks like one of a piece.
It does.
I like the "Ahoy there, can I help you?"
Yes. Do you mind?
Oh, and the one below that where he's on a skateboard named the Tundra in these sunglasses.
Greetings, fellow children.
Yes. Oh my gosh, the "Greetings, fellow children" image was so amazing. I loved that one. Okay, you have to stop scrolling through Tumblr now.
Okay,
It's
okay,
our secret
okay.
path, it becomes very, very difficult.
Okay. So I think that's pretty much all we've got for you, folks. Coming up for us next are a couple of things. We will be back on Sunday at 10 through till 12, where we'll be trying again to finish Windbound. Didn't go well last time, but I'm quietly confident that mistakes have been made, lessons have been learned, and we're going to have a lot more food on the boat, and we'll be ready.
That's the...
And then we'll have to work out what we're doing after that. And then join us next Wednesday when Ursula will be here herself and I will be chatting to her, and so will you. We will be taking questions.
And the first thing we're going to ask her is how come Bob didn't get a medal at the
Yes.
end of A Wizard's Guide to Defensive Bacon?
There's some kind of Chewy situation.
Exactly. Sad face.
But no, that's pretty much it.
We may be talking about her new book as well, but I haven't finished it yet.
Yes.
So I'll have to read it very fast. But Ursula's books aren't the kind of things you want to read really fast or late at night in bed.
Because
so
they
maybe
might get
not.
you.
They might get you. But I'm reading Johnny's book right now. And oh my god, it's impossible to not hear it in his voice. Wow. Anyway. And I'm very excited that we get to talk to him about
Me
that.
too. That's going to be awesome.
I think that's everything.
I think that's it. Alrighty.
Oh, but we're almost there. We're almost to a level 3 hype train. I don't know what that does. I'm hoping it involves emojis.
Okay, so we should keep going for another 2 minutes and 20 seconds or something?
I think so. Quick,
All right.
vamp! You've got 2 minutes and 20 seconds.
Vogue. I'm not sure when the next episode of Enthusiasm that I was on will be appearing.
I don't know either. I haven't been told. But the horror one was so good. I really love listening to it. Yay,
That was really
Sonia,
good fun.
Thank you. Woohoo!
Brilliant.
Yay, hi. I think that's a good thing. Yay. Are the little indicators showing up on the screen this time? Because I worked on them. I'm sorry. I'm trying to evolve things to make this thread better. But, as we go on. Ooh.
Yeah, everyone do go check out Steve's new project. That looks really cool.
Is this the Saw Movies project? Because it was so good. Oh, thank you, Tafra.
Thank you, Taff.
Oop, I did the wrong thing. This is very exciting. Yay.
You're not entirely sure what's going on, and neither am I.
I'm really not. But you know what? I enjoy the noise and the chaos, and that makes
The beats and the shouting.
the beats and the shouting. Pride cream. What are these? Tasty treats made with love. Oh, they're little pride
They are
ice creams.
adorable.
Oh, I might need some of those. Ooh. Okay, can we put that in the show notes?
Yes, of course.
Okay, I'll put it for you. The beats and the shouting. Yes, that's a reference to the...
And pre-sales will go up on Friday for the Sawtober book.
Oh, nice.
Now is
Something else.
probably a terrible time to admit that as a horror pop culture professional, I have never seen all of the Saw movies.
What?
Nope.
I've seen the first one.
I've never even seen all the Final Destinations.
I've never seen any of the Final Destinations. But you have to see the first Saw movie.
I've seen the first one. The first one's great.
The first one's amazing. And after that, it does kind of get into torture porn. But there are, good continuity threads and things like that. I think Aussie Scribble had a question earlier. Why did you end on Jackalope Wise rather than the story Ursula published in your anthology? It's a rights position, basically.
Yeah.
We don't have the right to use the Jacob story. But Ursula was very generous and gave us permission to read the Jackalope story.
I will, Z. Thank you.
What's this? DM?
Z is like, DM me, Alistair.
Yeah, okay. There we go. Now it has 3 minutes and 15 seconds left. Okay, see, if they keep donating, they're going to make you keep vamping. So now you have to find something else to vamp about.
And the thing is, we are actually quite good at that.
You are very, very good.
No, we are very good at that.
There was another thing.
What was the thing?
Yes, we need to talk about this. This thing that I just found today. Where is it? I saved the link. This. Okay, I can't put that link in there because it could contain non-safe for work content. But if you go and... Where's the origin tweet? I saved it. Here it is. There is apparently right now going on that nobody told me is Peter Martin Week.
Oh my god.
2020, and apparently there are all these prompts from November 9th through the November 15th of different pieces of art, and the art for this morning.
Thank you, Widmore.
At the beginning of the stream was
that from that?
Was a weather prompt from this. And, well, I have you, and I have a phone, and I'm sure I could come up with something for Peter to say about all of these prompts, but if we have to kill 3 or 4 more minutes, I'm sure other people... Oh, now we have to kill 4 minutes and 30 seconds.
Or until we get to the top of the hype train. Okay,
I'm
okay.
Sure, okay, so day 1, lighthouse and concealment. Or I think they're dual prompts. Day 2 was home and melancholia.
Mm-hmm.
Day 3 was weather and inheritance. Day 4 is marine or domain.
Okay.
Day 5 is gift or boundaries. I'm yawning. Day 6 is navigation or temperature. And day 7 is funeral and comfort. I don't know if you're supposed to mash those things up or if you're supposed to use either one, but I got time on my hands and I got access to you, so maybe we'll see if something comes up.
I think that needs to be done because it did occur to us a couple of days ago. It has been an awfully long time since we have committed shenanigans.
I know, we haven't shenanigans.
That was a surprisingly great People's Eyebrow. I'm pretty happy with that. I'm not going to lie.
Well done. Very well done. Yeah, so we might need some, motivation and some suggestions is what I'm saying.
Basically, start trouble.
Start good trouble.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Seriously, though, that was a really good People's Eyebrow. I'm pretty hyped about that.
Really?
Yeah.
I have to go watch the VOD for your People's Eyebrow. I'm very proud about that. I can hear the clips being generated now. These are illicit, non-Alex approved shenanigans.
Shenan your hearts out.
That is absolutely correct. Thank you very much, anonymous gifters. And for our part, they will be safe for work shenanigans. However, silly and or sappy is perfectly acceptable. Well, it's Martin, so...
Silly and sappy are perfectly acceptable, as are let's mock the old man who doesn't understand what the internet is.
Yeah, those are probably my favorite variety of shenanigans, I have to be honest.
You know that thing where sometimes a joke will just circle back around in your brain and it's funny every time it bubbles to the surface? I actually have 2 of those at the moment. One of them is nothing remotely Magnus related. It's about 15 years ago. The comedian Danny Wallace did a documentary series where he made his apartment a country. And he actually did it. And he went through the full legal process for how to do it. And this culminated in recording his national anthem. And I'll make a note and drop the anthem in the show notes, because there is a joke in there about all the things you can be, and the one thing you can't be in his country that comes...
His name is Lovely.
Yes, it is, in the country of Lovely. That makes me laugh every time I think of it. And the other one is just this single, perfectly turned, gorgeous 2-line interaction. Martin, what's a Zoom? You wouldn't like it.
I think we just need to do a... Martin, what's a TikTok? You wouldn't like it. Martin, what's Skype? You wouldn't like it. Martin, what's Tinder? You really wouldn't like it, Peter.
There are these words after hatch. What's a hashtag? It's a hashtag. Hashtag, like I said.
Yeah, I think a whole list of those would be
I have not seen Tim Curry asking what a meme is.
What? I must see Tim Curry asking what a meme is. Oh, okay. One more thing, because we have 54 seconds to kill. You remember a while ago on the stream we talked about the White Street Society stories? Oh, come on. Sorry.
Oh, God.
Okay.
Yep.
So these are these hilarious Victorian horror stories, which are hilarious and horribly racist. But stylistically written so as to be poking fun at the fact that they are horribly racist. Well, we've found out that there may be another one coming, a new one. And when Pseudopod commissions it, what we're going to do is we're going to record on video Alistair narrating the story so you can see how long it takes him to get through the story. And it will be nothing but liquid serotonin dripping into your veins because it will be Alistair corpsing for like 30 minutes straight. It'll be hilarious.
But make no mistake, these stories are incredibly offensive. But they're not incredibly offensive in that, nudge, nudge, wink, wink, oh, we're being offensive way. They're incredibly offensive
in a satirical commentary way.
Yes.
This is the one that involves pouring boiling water on children out windows, I think.
The most recent one opens, and there's very strong Drexel and David energy between the two leads.
Oh my
very
God, that's
strong.
The perfect way of describing it.
Wow. With the David being called by Drexel, who's basically, I need you, bring your weapons. I'm at the orphanage. And he has been hunting and has successfully killed Santa Claus. Except he hasn't. And it gets so much worse from there.
Elias leaving awful comments on YouTube videos. Oh God, we have to. Yes.
Martin, I'm sending you another Minion meme. It's very funny. They're all yellow, Martin. That's the joke. It's like a banana. I want a banana, Martin.
How much can it cost? $10. Oh wow, that would be so much fun.
Right.
I think we've run out the clock. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, folks. Oh God, Elias, Peter, and Martin shopping at Four Seasons Landscaping.
Ah! Yes! That sounds amazing. Yes! Apparently, an American friend is getting me one of the stickers. I'm very excited about that.
Fantastic.
Okay.
This has been a blast. Thank you so much, folks.
Thank you very much for the serotonin, everybody. And yes, we're running low on shenanigans for the streams. So
send us stuff.
I'm going to be very carefully and with safe searching on keeping an eye on the Peter Martin tag for like potential little bits and pieces, which would be very lovely to have. Martin having to take Peter's awful cat to the vet. Ooh, that's a very good one. There's lots of good ones. Okay.
All right, folks.
Go ahead and say.
I think we're good. Thank you so much. We will see you on Sunday.
Yep.
And again next Wednesday with Ursula.
Hooray.